All right. So, I have shown you quite a few of the cinematics that you get to see when you start campaigns with different characters. Now, I could also show you some of these that also take place during the campaign, but honestly, I'm just like, when it comes to... This just kind of like shows you a bit more about Be'lakor and Urson, and honestly, I don't really think it's that big a deal. The ones I do want to show you, though, are the ones you get when you win the campaign with certain factions or characters. So, this is the one you get. This is the one that I got when I first beat this game. Legit, when it first came out, like within the first week it came out, as the Demon Prince, or Daniel as we like to call him. Though, for continuity's sake, we'll say that, I want to remind you that this is actually Yuri from the prologue. So sometimes I just call him Yuri, but we also like to just call him Daniel. So when you beat the campaign by defeating Be'lakor with Daniel, this is what you get.
A battle to draw the gaze of the gods. All breathe a sigh of relief, for Be'lakor is vanquished. Godhood is lost. As was foretold, shackled within the depths of the forge was the body of Urson, the once mighty god of Kislev. The Demon Prince stands before the lifeless god. It was his mortal hand that fired the fatal shot. The divine corpse now his to plunder. The Demon Prince finally has what Be'lakor's lying tongue once promised. The fathomless power of a god. Urson is dead. Long live the black-hearted god of Kislev. One drop of Urson's blood was enough to break my curse. The taint purged from the tome of fates. Now it is mine to command. A pure white crow, the lone witness to my ascension. Come, little one, what fate awaits us?
So, the beginning part of that, where it's like, oh, you have defeated Be'lakor, and, Urson there lies dead, and the part about, like, the drop of blood broke my curse, and the tome is mine, oh, a pure white crow. All that is the same for all these cinematics, which, if you don't know the connection there, that's setting up Warhammer 1, where we play, remember, the advisor was there with the White Crow, apparently having lost his sight at that point, going to be the advisor of those lords then. But that's, that's what Yuri gets. He gets to make sure that Urson is dead, claim his power for himself, and become the new god of Kislev. As you saw, he was probably having the citizens of Kislev pull down the statues of Urson and put up statues of himself. So, now, remember, now let's move on to each of these different ones. I'll remind you. Remember, what Skarbrand wanted for Khorne was Urson's skull, because as the advisor said, the skull of a god would be a great trophy for the Skull Throne, and perhaps could win Khorne's favor once again. Could the skull of Urson win back the favor of Khorne for Skarbrand?
A battle to draw the gaze of the gods. All breathe a sigh of relief, for Be'lakor is vanquished. Godhood is lost. As was foretold, shackled within the depths of the forge was the body of Ursun, the once mighty god of Kislev. The exiled one stands before the lifeless god. The divine corpse still fresh to plunder. The skull of a deity for the skull throne. Skarbrand's supreme offering to the blood god. Might he finally earn Khorne's forgiveness? From the endless darkness, there is only laughter. One drop.
And then it shows the same thing I already showed you about one drop was enough to break my curse. It's this. It plays after every one of those. So yeah, this little snip of, is basically going to be the only difference between each of these. That's why these feel underwhelming. It's like, oh, really? After all that, that's all we get? Like, especially the Skarbrand one. Well, not especially, but that's one of those that where it's like, oh, okay, so apparently all that we just did was for naught. Because it looks like Khorne was like, you think that's enough to earn my forgiveness? Get out of here. I will take this trophy, but please, Skarbrand, go. Continue to be exiled. Or Khorne was laughing at the idea that he finally had the skull of one of these gods as part of his throne. What he was laughing about, maybe we'll never know. But then again, this is Khorne we're talking about. Now, as for Kugath, remember, he wanted to get the body of Ursun so that he could use its body to, and everything that is a part of it, to create the ultimate pox. A god-level pox.
The great unclean one stands before the lifeless god. The divine corpse still fresh to plunder. With these divine ingredients, Kugath Plaguefather shall realize his darkest dream. A brew potent enough to blight the gods themselves. Behold, a god pox unleashed upon the heavens.
Which I'm sure will make Nurgle quite happy, because we all want to please Grandfather. After all, we're just sharing Grandfather's love with the gods, right? I'm sorry. It's one of the things that I actually, amusingly enjoy about playing some of these Chaos God factions, especially Nurgle and Kugath. It's about, the idea, of, we're just spreading the love of Grandfather Nurgle, even though he's actually not the oldest in this setting. It's actually Khorne. But it's and you'll hear some of the units of these factions just shout things that are just hysterical, like some of the Nurgle cultists will shout things like, "A crusade against cleanliness!" Oh, man. And then, oh, gosh. And then we move to Slaanesh. Don't even get me started on some of the things that the Slaanesh units say, because, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Ugh. They said some things that just made me do a double take, and I was just like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm not going to say them out loud here. But, yeah, this is what happens when you get Nakari to Ursun's body, who just wanted to have his sorrow, the sorrow of a dying god.
The Arch-Tempter stands before the lifeless god, the bear's anguished spirits still lingering among the shadows. Divine sorrow, captured and preserved. Ursun's torment is treasured and savored. At the prospect of Kislev's coming suffering, Nakari moans in rapture. Glory to Slaanesh.
Yeah, I think it was Lore Master Sotek who, when he was asked during his stream, because he does post some of his streams, he was asked who does he think is the most evil being in this setting, and he said he thinks Nakari is. This is someone who enjoys and gets incredible enjoyment out of the suffering of others. He wants to inflict some of the most heinous, horrible, terrible things upon others, and it brings him joy. That should tell you everything you need to know about Nakari, who is one of the most loyal and faithful servants of Slaanesh. In case you're wondering, yeah, Slaanesh is like my least favorite of the Chaos God factions. I would say Khorne and Nurgle are like my top two. And then there's Tzeentch. So, Kairos, who of course we know he sees the past and the future, but he can't see the present. So he wanted to get the eyes of Ursun so he can be able to see the present as well. And see everything. On behalf of Tzeentch, of course.
The great oracle stands before the lifeless god. The divine corpse still fresh to plunder. One head sees the past, the other the future, but both are blind to the present. The stolen eyes of a dead god at last grant Kairos Fateweaver full sight. Behold, the new master of time.
Yeah. So before we move on to the next one, let me show you what you get when you defeat the campaign as the Changeling. Once you pull off the greatest of schemes that he had, which I will admit was kind of a fun and interesting campaign. Obviously, like I said, I had some mods to make it easier for myself. But the idea of like going around and like when I was pulling off the scheme in the Empire, where the idea is you're causing a civil war amongst the Elector Counts to revolt against the Emperor, to then have the Changeling, I would then have him take the form of Karl Franz to make it look as if Karl Franz had literally turned on them and joined Tzeentch. That was kind of a fun little role-playing thing for me, you know, doing that stuff as the Changeling. So this is what you get when you win the campaign as the Changeling.
Such mischief and mayhem could only be caused by the slyest of pranksters. Reveling in the beautiful discord he has sown, the Changeling believes he is the ultimate trickster. Yet, he himself is the one being played. For it is the great god Tzeentch who is the true master schemer.
That's it. That's the cinematic you get after you do a whole campaign as the Changeling. It's like, okay, yes, we know that. That's it, you know? Like I said, underwhelming. So I'm going to skip Kislev for the moment. Let's see. Oh, these ones. I actually did the campaign to see what this was like as Valkia. I was thinking about doing one as Festus, but didn't get around to doing it, so... let's go ahead and jump to the Ogres. Now, there's actually two different ones here, but as you see, it only just shows either Greasus or Scrag just basically enjoying what they want. So, I guess I'll just go ahead and show you both, even though to me there's, like, the fact that it's just literally... It doesn't really feel like there should be two different ones here. Just have one representing both of them and have the same thing play. But then again, I don't know, maybe that just takes away from the idea of something unique. Because after all, we have basically the same thing for three of them here. Just a tiny bit different. So, whatever.
The over-tyrant stands before a lifeless god. The divine corpse still fresh to butcher. An ogre's greatest desire, god flesh, the meat of meats. Once the tribe have gorged, Ursun's remains will be fed to the great maw. Respite from the eternal gnawing hunger. The prophet of the great maw stands before a lifeless god. The divine corpse still fresh to butcher. An ogre's greatest desire, god flesh, the meat of meats. Once the tribe have gorged, Ursun's remains will be fed to the great maw. Respite from the eternal gnawing hunger.
Like, even the dialogue there wasn't different. It's the exact same thing. It just simply shows Scrag instead of Greasus. You know? Alright, so now, again, this is something that's like, oh, okay, they decided to just simply have the same thing for either of the two Cathay lords.
A dragon stands before a lifeless god. But all is not lost. The spirit wind is harnessed. Even Ursun must speak once more. Ursun fades forever, but his last kindness will not be forgotten. A vision of the lost dragon child, waiting for her sibling's light.
That's it. That's all they get. I mean, at least it's a tease for that other dragon to show up later as a DLC, I guess, but still. Now, what do you do if you win the Jade Dragon's unique campaign? Well,
through Yuan Boer's brutal diligence, the command of the Emperor is executed. The Wu Sing compass can now harness the full might of the winds of magic. Even now, the Jade Dragon watches over Wei Qin and the whole of the Celestial Empire, his all-seeing eyes unclouded by pity or mercy.
Again, very short and very underwhelming. So, these are the ones you get when you win either of the Warriors of Chaos campaigns. Let's start with Valkia.
The world shudders in the wake of the Gore Queen's slaughter. With her savage fury came triumph for the Blood God. A supreme offering to spur his endless rage. Let the world be drenched in blood!
This is for Festus.
Unspeakable were the atrocities committed by the Leech Lord. His victories spurred by promises of endless putrefaction. A most potent offering to spread the greatest plagues. By the Doctor's gifts, Nurgle's true horror is unleashed.
And this is the one for the guy who works for Slaanesh. Azazel, I think.
With seduction and slaughter had come triumph. All bow to Azazel, the exalted champion of chaos. The fallen souls unleashed, a sublime offering to an insatiable god. A power to aid their enslavement of the world. Glory to Slaanesh!
And Tzeentch.
Another of the great conspirators' schemes prevails. The Twisted Twin supremacy, a portent of the world's doom to come. A tribute to turn the wheels of fate. As for the Curseling's fate, well, only Tzeentch knows.
Okay. So now for the Kislev ones. So let me show you what you get when you win as Mother Ostankia, which her whole thing was to pull off the greatest of hexes.
With a ruinous hex unleashed, the Hag Mother has embellished her grim tale. Gnarled roots entwine twisted limbs. Bones crack like twigs as the forest grows, feasting on the bodies of the fallen. The grisly legend of Mother Ostankia lives on. Beware anyone foolish enough to enter the woods.
Again, that's it. Yeah. So, in case you're wondering, which of these are quote-unquote canon, even though a lot of this game is not actually canon, but if you're wondering which is the canon ending of this game, it's actually the Kislev one. Now, you may be wondering, well, which one is it? Well, I personally think it's the Katerin one, only because it feels like she has the more unique of the cutscenes. And I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to show you Kostaltin and Boris first, and then we're going to save Katerin for last.
A battle to draw the gaze of the gods. All breathe a sigh of relief, for Be'lakor is vanquished. Godhood is lost. As was foretold, shackled within the depths of the forge was the body of Ursun, the once mighty god of Kislev. The zealot stands before his lifeless god. Vengeance cannot fill the void left by his passing. The god-bear stirs. The faith of Kostaltin sparks new fire within his still heart. With Ursun's roar, Kislev is restored. The crops shall grow, the beasts will fatten, and the motherland will prosper once again.
So, now let's watch the one for Boris.
A battle to draw the gaze of the gods. All breathe a sigh of relief, for Be'lakor is vanquished. Godhood is lost. As was foretold, shackled within the depths of the forge was the body of Ursun, the once mighty god of Kislev. Azar stands before his lifeless god. Vengeance cannot fill the void left by his passing. The god-bear stirs. The spirit of Boris Baka sparks new fire within his still heart. With Ursun's roar, Kislev is restored. The crops shall grow, the beasts will fatten, and the motherland will prosper once again.
So basically the same thing, except a little bit of different dialogue referring to either Kostalton or Boris, right? You'll also notice that it's just simply showing Ursun there. Like, they're not showing any of these actual characters standing there, even though he's saying, they stand before the lifeless god. But we don't actually see them there, and none of them say anything. I say that because I want you to now watch this one if you win as Katerin, and, well, let me just... You're going to notice the difference. Try to see if you can notice the difference of what I'm talking about here. And why I consider this to be the actual canon one, that it's Katerin who is the one who goes to find and save him, that they basically built up Katerin as the protagonist of this game's story.
A battle to draw the gaze of the gods. All breathe a sigh of relief, for Be'lakor is vanquished. Godhood is lost. As was foretold, shackled within the depths of the forge was the body of Ursun, the once mighty god of Kislev. A queen stands before her lifeless god. Vengeance cannot fill the void left by his passing.
Ursun, we did all we could. I am sorry. Kislev will fall.
The god bear stirs. The faith of a queen sparks new fire within his still heart. With Ursun's roar, Kislev is restored. The crops shall grow, the beasts will fatten, and the motherland will prosper once again.
So, yeah, they actually took the time to draw her in to that scene standing there and have that actual moment, as you see on the screen there, where she actually, talks to him, like, feeling like she let him down, and that she's not just let him down, but also Kislev. And that is what basically revives him, Like, they actually did that for her. They didn't bother to do that for the other two, which tells me that they went into this with the entire intention that the main story that you would do here, ideally, as the canon one, is that you play as Katerin, and you go through the Realms of Chaos campaign, and it's Katerin who defeats Be'lakor and reaches Ursun. She, has that moment, and it revives Ursun, and, saves his life and saves Kislev. That's, to me, like, whether or not that's the actual choice one, unless they're just saying, oh, it's any of the 3 Kislev ones. To me, that's just such a dismissal of the fact that they actually bothered to do that extra little bit there. That extra bit of drawing her standing there in front of him, and that, having her actress, do those lines, and drawing that scene there of her just, like, standing, and, like, that moment right there, like you see there. Like, if you're going to go that extra mile, then that tells me that that's the one that you actually really wanted to show off and show that that is the actual one. So, in my mind, the canon one here is the Katerin one, where we see that it's called, instead of the disciple and the defender, the heart of the bear, where it shows that, like, the idea that part of the reason why Kostalton leads the orthodoxy against her is because he thinks that she cares too much about politics and the ice court and all that stuff, and doesn't care about Urson, or that she's given up her faith in Urson and Kislev, and whereas he leads that. But what that shows is that she has not given that up, that she does still care about him, that through the bloodline that she inherited from Boris, that her faith for Urson and Kislev is still strong enough to even revive him. Like, it makes sense that Kostalton and Boris would revive him, but for Katerin to be the one to do that speaks a little bit more, at least to me. I could be wrong. Remember, I am still a novice when it comes to Warhammer Fantasy lore. I'm sure there are more experts when it comes to Warhammer Fantasy that could point out things that I do not know that would make me wrong. And if you do know, feel more than free to let me know in the comments. But yeah, as I believe that's all of them. I already showed you the Chaos Dwarves one in a separate video. But yeah, that is all the different cinematics so far that you can get when you win the campaigns as any of the available factions, including the DLCs, for this game. Obviously, when more comes out, I will be looking to show you guys more of those. I will probably have to resubscribe to that mod that, unless I'm able to just go ahead and win those campaigns, but we'll see. But yeah, we know that more is coming. We know that more content is on the way for this game. They have an entire roadmap that they did show and post to people, showing that they have more DLCs and content planned for this game, adding more to the different factions. Like, obviously, the last one, as you know, was Tzeentch, Cathay, and Kislev, with Ostankia, Yuanbo, and of course the Changeling. And I, of course, am very curious and interested in seeing who they add to the other three major Chaos God factions. And is Daniel going to be the only one standing here amongst the Demons of Chaos faction? Is he going to be the only one? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But obviously I want to know who they're going to add for Khorne, who they're going to add for Nurgle, and even who they're going to add for Slaanesh, though, well, let's just say Slaanesh kind of makes me, ugh. But yeah. Anyways, like I said, these are underwhelming endings. They very much are. Most of them are very much the same, except for the little change that addresses who you're specifically playing. It felt like they put the most effort into the Katerin one, with the extra little bit of her standing there and talking, compared to everyone else, which did not. No one else was drawn there, and no one else had any lines of dialogue. Could you imagine if they had done that for every one of them? Like, imagine, like, showing Boris and he says something, or Kostalton and he says something, or heck, even some of the other Chaos ones. Like, imagine they showed Skarbrand standing there, and he has this moment where he, even though he is Rage Incarnate, that he has this moment where he is so eager and ready to take his skull, so he thinks it'll finally earn him the forgiveness of Khorne. Or we see Kuyath, and he just starts gleefully laughing at, like, oh, I finally get to make the greatest of all poxes to serve grandfather. Just like extra little things like that. Would that have been much more effort and time? Yes, but it would have been immensely appreciated from those of us who like seeing those little extra things added. That's why I like the Katerin ending, because it just shows me that someone or some other people bothered to do that. And I appreciate that. I like that. So anyways, yeah, underwhelming endings for these campaigns. In case you're wondering, what do you get out of it for winning them? Well, you get an achievement and you get this little small cutscene. That's basically all you get. That's obviously not the reason we play these campaigns and we play this game. It's part of the fun of actually, like, getting to do the management of the campaign maps, the battles, like having certain, like, getting to have the fun, like, for example, of having Skarbrand just go into an enemy army and just tear them apart and watch, like, the animations. Like, that's the real meat and fun of this game, I would like more of a story focus to be able to add more lore, but then again, they already have more than enough on their plate, and I can always turn to the modding community to do that, because they already have. There have been modders. I highly recommend, if you're wanting more story and lore stuff for this game, definitely look in the Steam Workshop. There's a lot of really good stuff that will add much more stuff. Some of it lore friendly, some of it not. But you can be able to look for specific things and try to get it to work. It's usually pretty friendly when it comes to how do I say this? It's not that difficult, it seems, when it comes to like swapping out or activating and disabling mods for this game to try and see if they can get them to work together and run together. You may encounter some bugs and such, of course, and sometimes if you get ones that literally prevent you from starting it up, that conflict, it'll pop up and let you know this mod is causing an issue, and then you go, oh, well, I can't use that one. I'll have to turn that off and then try it again. It's a little, it gives you some leeway in that regard. So anyways, those are the ending cinematics for the campaigns in this game so far, up to patch 4.2. And I will be looking to show you guys more of those when they add more lords and cinematics and content for this game later on. So anyways, I will see you guys next time.